Good evening, everyone. Guest speaker Mr. MerakiRandyChriz, visual director, artist, and animator. The principal of Royal College, Mr. R.M.M. Ratnagar. The deputy principal of co-curricular activities, Mr. Prasad Veerasiri. The senior master in charge of clubs and societies, Mr. Chandan Lianage. The teacher in charge of the art circle, Mr. Amita Panidania. All assistant teachers in charge, members of the prefect council, and all fellow members of the art circle. I am Chansal Heva. On behalf of the art circle of Royal College, I warmly welcome all of you to Pixel Art 2022. So before we begin today's proceedings, I would like to invite everybody to pay our tribute to the college song. Thank you.
Thy spirit comes to life awoke in 1835 beneath the sway of marsh and book. They fought freedom, God's darling cry. So that our fathers learned the way before us. Learnt of books and learnt of men, through the wilderness sing. True to our worth, this day of this day, we will learn of books and men, and learn to bear again. Within the shed of honor strong, the path that leads to man's estate, there have we made the tents behold, they get lights in violence. Soon there are fathers, learn the way before us. Lots of books and lots of men, to be faithful the same. True to our watchword, this day of this day, we will learn of books and men, and learn to bear again. And with their loyal sons around, the torch with thoughts as long as old, our ocean cross the waves of shame, nor has been our passion known. Soon there are fathers, learnt the way before us. Learnt of books and learnt of men, too we will do the same. True to our watchword, this day of this day, we will learn of books and men, and learn to bear again.
The Art Circle of Royal College has been one of the most active societies of the school since 1995. It's also one of the largest clubs in the school with a member base of over 1,000 students. This society has always supported in polishing the aesthetic talents of not only royalists but also of young students from all over the island. The main duty of those at the art circle is to develop the students' talents to an extent of being recognized by other people in the society. Also, the art circle works to prepare a path for those talented students who wish to carry out their skills in the future. So, Pixel Art 2022. A lecture series based on the digital arts, video editing, graphic designing, and animations. Earlier, we had 2 lectures in the fields of video editing and graphic design, and they were successfully concluded. And to let you all know, Pixel Art 2022 is a project fully organized by the grade 9 batch. The junior committee and the junior board of the art circle supported in organizing this wonderful project. So today, you're joining us with the final lecture of Pixel Art 2022. And here, to grace this occasion, we have Mr. RandyChriz, a passionate artist who has done big things and who is an experienced animator with 17 plus years of work in the field of TV, e-commerce, advertising, and music. And today, this is a lecture for the art of visual directory and animations. So, sir, the stage is yours.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm Portia. I am the talent manager at Meraki United, and I'll be kind of moderating this session with Randy because the two of us work on most things together. And we have a list of a lineup of things that we would like to discuss, because I hope the audience also can engage. I don't know how it works, but if you can raise the hand or engage if we ask questions. Is that possible, Sinu?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. So we will start off with a question for the audience because we want to gauge from where, what's your understanding of visual art and animation? Just to gauge that we would like to ask the question. If 2 people can answer, if 2 people can raise their hands and answer, that should be enough, and then we'll go on to the rest of the lecture. So the question is, what do you understand when you say animation? So visual direction is something that's hard to answer directly, especially a student. But what do you think when we say animation? Like, what is your idea of animation? Yeah.
So I'll share mine.
Yeah. Let them. If 2 people can answer, then we can take it from there. Is anyone ready to answer that question? Well, it's simple. Like, what do you think when maybe Sanut, you can answer?
Yeah, so we take the animations. I want it like 3D designing, like in a video form, and can take some abstract designing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the designing aspect of it. Yeah, and 3D you mentioned. So when we think animation, we just wanted to know what the new gen, because you guys are still much younger and like 2 generations after us. So we weren't sure where you think or where you place animation and how our understanding is of animation, because it would help us build on from there, because there might be new ideas about what animation is, but I think it's pretty much the same. Yeah, I think they're going along the 3D aspect of animation, and the design aspect. Maybe you didn't think of this, but animation also includes the gaming aspect and a lot of things like that, right? So from movies to gaming to the cartoons and the little short skits that you see now. I'm not sure if you guys are allowed to watch Netflix, but if you watch Love, Death and Robots, then that is like the latest short form animation that's trending globally. So there are many aspects to animation. So Randy will explain, like give you like a little brief of what the animation world encompasses. So that you have like, okay, this is what we are trying to understand, so that you understand the whole scope as yet. But we need to also understand that this scope keeps expanding, especially in the future with a lot of virtual realisms coming into place. There will be a larger scope for design as well as animation. So keeping that in mind, we will just now kind of understand what the current scope of animation is, Randy, would you like to explain?
Yeah, so like you said, animation is basically visuals in motion. So animation can be in different platforms. Like you said, it can be in gaming, it can be in a form of a movie, or various kinds of platforms and executions. But basically, animation is some object or visual in motion. So, it's a form of people can forms of animation. They're even starting from cave paintings, like from paintings to it's like a comic form, but so slowly they found methods of moving the drawings that they do in different equipments, like this rotating things where it just rotates and the character runs. And so all of these, they have like an evolution of things that people found out to really move things. So then Walt Disney came along, and they came up with the frame by frame animation stuff. So where you draw on paper, and so frame by frame you have to like draw all the animations, characters moving. So from there onwards, when you take animation, there are generally the one book that's called 12 Principles of Animation, which really has the proper principles how to get animation right. So if you have the principles of animation in your animation, I think you will have a really good execution, and which will work in all kind of platforms. So
Yeah, the principles of animation actually address the motion of a picture, like how you animate a motion. So that is why the 12 principles are important, regardless of the tool of animation. So like Randy mentioned, there is classical animation, which Walt Disney popularized, his artists rather. So the principles of animation apply across the board, even if it's 3D, even if it's 2D, even if it's the latest VR or whatever it is. The 12 principles are basically how you animate an object. It's like how gravity applies, the physics of it rather, like how would you turn a head, and if it's a weightless, how would the feather move as opposed to how would a ball hit the ground, those kind of things. So it's a general understanding of the movement of pictures, because it's slightly different from a realistic movement, because when realistic movement happens, we don't really think about how the movement is happening, or if what physics apply to that movement. So we just record what's happening, right? And it naturally happens with the application of gravity and light and all that. But when you animate, when you're actually drawing the animation, you have to imagine the gravity, imagine the lighting, the shadows and all that.
Yeah, especially you're talking about 2D animation, right? In 3D animation, there you have techniques where you can set a where the object works in the world that you project.
Yes.
The gravity and the mass and all of that you can apply. So it automatically does the animation itself. Even when you make characters, when you like have them falling, and all the character background is set, it will animate in a more natural way. But still, even in a lot of movies, you see manually done animation, especially in the Spider-Verse movie as well, where they really break things down, where the 3D animators try to mimic 2D animation.
Yes.
Again, going back to the 12 principles of animation in the 2D animation book. So like people can really apply those principles in all animations that they would do.
Yeah, so those are the principles of animation.
Yeah.
Randy, you were telling us about the technique. So the first technique was the rotating, the little tool that they use to rotate the picture so that it appears as if the picture is moving. There was a name for it, now I forget. It's like a merry-go-round, and the pictures are placed around
Those were
this
used in the
stone.
1920s, 1910, way back then.
Way back
So another form of animation is stop motion, where you get the objects and you move them little by little while taking pictures and playing those pictures in a sequence, where you get the stop motion animation.
Yeah.
And obviously another one is 3D animation, and the other one is frame by frame animation. Motion graphics is done in the computer, like, you know, so like, yeah.
Yeah.
Motion.
So basically, I think we can outline animation, frame by frame animation, which was initially used by Disney and any 2D cartoon that you watch. Mostly the older 2D cartoons that you watch. And then there is 3D animation, which is obviously animating in 3D. And 2D animation, there's puppeteering, which is not frame by frame, but it is the image and the result is 2D. But it is puppeteered. So you kind of rig the drawing in 2D and then move it with the help of that rig. But the movements are limited. There are limitations in 3D rotations and stuff like that. So for that, again, you have to go for a 2D frame by frame approach. Or 3D. So as I was saying again, classical animation, which is the frame by frame, same two names for the same technique. And then there's 2D animation, puppeteering, and then there's 3D animation, there's stop motion. Stop motion is an example is Postman Pat. That's stop motion, and there's a beautiful movie called Kubo, which is a stop motion, and that studio has done a lot of stop motion movies. And then we have motion graphics, which is basically what you mostly see in the industry in Sri Lanka, because it's basically you take pictures that already exist and move it. So that's what they use for like trailers, themes, like what you see in the movie trailers and it starts. So that's called motion graphics. So it's not the camera shooting real footage, but that's real footage taken as pictures and then moved. So that's called motion graphics. So those are the 5 types of animation that we can roughly outline. But now what Randy does, for example, Randy, what you do is neither 3D or 2D. So that's entirely something new. Would you like to explain on that?
Well, so I use Adobe Photoshop and Adobe After Effects. So After Effects mainly is for motion graphics, like just to move certain images and make a video. So you can go a little bit further than that, making the images that you have you can turn on the 3D object, then it turns into all images in a 3D space. So having that advantage, you can have a camera and move the camera along the visuals and have a little bit of a depth. So that's where I really took that advantage and made certain objects out of the visual elements that I had, and I took a little bit further from there. So the characters there, I, like Posh said, I will have to obviously rig the characters and all the hands and the body and all that, and then that's how I would animate it, all according to the camera angle that I would will choose to have. So basically, what I do is like 2D animation in rigged form, puppeteering almost. But you have to have an idea about storytelling and camera angles and
yeah, so that part is actually visual directing. So as Randy said, now he has combined a few techniques together, like the software that is usually used for motion graphics. He has taken a 3D looking 2D experience, which is what he does, and it's roughly called, there's no definite term for it, but it's usually referred to as 2.5D. which can be considered a new technique, though it is actually a combination of techniques. And similarly, it's like even Spider-Verse, like Randy said before, that was a combination of techniques. And now we see a trend where this combination of techniques are taking place more than purely a 3D movie or purely a 2D movie, because the 2D movies obviously take a lot of time. The latest example of a 2D or classical animated movie was Klaus with Klaus. If you can watch that, I think there are CDs also. It's a very nice movie, like aesthetically very pleasing, and it won, I think, an Academy Award or something. It was well recognized in the industry. So that is one recent movie that used 2D, but it usually takes a lot of time and a huge team.
A team, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
That's the other thing. And 3D doesn't take as much of a bigger team because the computer does some aspects of.
Well, for movies, there's a big team. So
Yes.
anyway, 3D also, there are different job descriptions.
Yeah,
and so like, it also has a big team. When it comes to big productions, anyway, there is a big team.
Yeah. What I was trying to say with 2D was that the big team are all animators in terms of 2D or artists. But in 3D, the big team can be the motion capturing artists, and then the rendering. The 3D and a 3D output itself has very specific skills. Now, if you ask somebody what do they do in 3D, they would say something like, "I'm a 3D generalist." That means they kind of do all of it. They know
lighting, the character design.
Yeah, so there's modeling, there's rigging, there's lighting, there's texturing, there's so the character modeling is done by one person, then the texturing is done by another person, then lighting, rigging is done by other. Lots of 3D people who do 3D modeling don't do rigging at all or animating, and the animation is done by another person. And for the animation now, recently they mostly use motion capture, which enables the computer to read an actual person's actions and embed it into the animated character or the model, the 3D model of the character design. Which is why there's a lot of 3D, because the output is a little bit faster now with the tools and the computer's involvement. But with 2D, even if you didn't have a computer, like with Walt Disney, it's not rendered on a computer. It's basically a lot of drawings put together in one roll and then, played at the speed of 24 frames per second.
Yeah, some 12 frames per second.
Some 12. So in Spider-Verse, they had used both frames. So if it's 12 frames per second, that means 12 drawings are played in a second.
Yeah.
So to 12 individual drawings. So that looks a little. Spider-Verse had used that as well. It looks a little less smooth than 24 frames a second. So 24 frames is almost a realistic kind of motion, very smooth. So for artistic purposes, they can choose either 12 frames per second or 24 frames a second.
And what's interesting is we've seen a lot of 3D animation movies coming along. And people always try to do something new. So what we saw with Spider-Verse was that they even got a lot of awards for that. They broke the frame. They broke the usual way of just 3D animation. They integrated a lot of 2D elements into that. So Albert Maigo was like, he's follow Alberto Maigo. So he really came up with that style. He even in Love, Death, Robots, he has used his technique in some of the episodes. So they combine 2D elements into the 3D movies. So if you really look closely on the characters, you can see 2D drawn. They're drawn texturing on the 3D characters. So it has a really unique look. And even a recent show on Netflix called Intergalactic also has the same kind of execution. So people try these new different kinds of techniques. I think it's important to break the monotony and create things that are new. So we should all be in tune with the content.
Yeah, so that's why we wanted to start this conversation with that, because as much as there are defined techniques, breaking the techniques and finding new ones is what pushes the world forward, or the industry, or the art itself, because that's when you get, because there's so much of people doing it now, not maybe not in Sri Lanka, but in the rest of the world, there are people doing it, and the machines are able to do more and more, and therefore the the artisticness of a project depends on the integration of these techniques, or breaking the rules and making new rules, and pushing the horizon, widening the horizon as we go. And that is exactly why Randy's technique,
especially with the metaverse, a lot of new concepts coming along. We have to be on top of the game, and even AI generated art, that's also things that we cannot stop, so might as well get into it and really play with all of those elements, and see what you can contribute and where you can build on. And also we should talk about the local industry and
so now I think we will move on to that. I think that's enough of an understanding of what animation is and the scope of animation so far. Since I guess we are talking to a local audience and students mostly, and if you guys are still hoping to stay in this country, you might be interested in what this industry looks like locally. So Randy, would you like to talk about the industry locally?
Yeah, so like Seshan mentioned earlier onwards, I have worked in advertising firms and on e-commerce platforms and a broadcasting channel that was like for 6 years almost. So I got a lot of experience on that department when it comes to videos and animation. So I think one of the hugest industries in Sri Lanka is advertising. I mean, it pays a lot. I mean, huge clients are involved, and if so through commercial advertising, and there are also, when it comes to animation, I think 3D animation, they are given a lot of leverage, and they give a lot of charm. I mean, like they use a lot of 3D animation. So 3D animators, if you do your thing right, especially the character animations, there's a huge scope for you guys. However, the 2D animation aspect of things in Sri Lanka is a little bit of a concern, I guess, because over the years we have failed to really bring value, like showcase something that's decent enough for other people to pick it up and use it into their commercials, I guess, like commercial products. So I think we have to start from our end to show value so that they can we can co-collaborate and do things together.
And that has happened for you a lot. I mean, in terms of the Sri Lanka itself does not have an industry for art or animation, in the sense that there is no definition for the roles, there is no standard salaries for the roles, and it isn't the compensation or the wages offered by Sri Lankan organizations for artists or animators aren't really proper. It's not a good wage for the skill that involves these specific talents. And the acquisition of those skills is also a little bit hard inside Sri Lanka because of the availability of proper institutions that teach these skills. There are a few private institutions, and I think that in the government there is a multimedia degree. It does, and the arts degrees, it does kind of allow a little bit of knowledge, groundwork. I in fact think the government degree allows the artist to actually know their skills or sharpen their skills a little better than the private institutions allow, because that's our experience so far.
You mean the fine arts degrees that
Yes,
they
the
have
fine
in
arts
the
and
campuses.
the multimedia degrees,
Right,
because we have seen the output is slightly more artistic in that side, that in our experience, it might be subjective, than the private school degrees.
But then again, I have also observed in the private degrees, like AOD, there's like AOD and AMDT, they do have a good strong syllabus, I guess you have to really follow it closely.
Yeah, so that's what. Maybe the syllabus is good in the sense that they give the knowledge that you require, but the artist itself, I don't know if they have room for the artist to grow as an artist, which was our concern. It's like, again, if you are good at something or if you're interested in doing something, there are two aspects to it, right? So there is the learning the theory, learning the techniques, learning the tools aspect. And then there is refining the skill aspect of it, refining the artistic aspect of it. So you need to combine both if possible. That is when you can really push forward or have an edge in the industry. So the local industry is, again, very limited. As I was saying, the opportunities to acquire the skills are also limited, and most schools are in Colombo, and then rural children outside Colombo, even if not rural, are not able to come and acquire that skill easily or conveniently. They have to come and stay here, and it's a bit of an effort. It costs also sometimes a lot. So the acquisition itself is hard, and in Randy's time there were no such schools at all, and there was no YouTube. So now we have YouTube and online courses, which I think are really good.
Yes.
A lot of online courses, and luckily and thankfully we have free software that's coming out that's actually believed to be better than the paid software that we use personally. So that opportunity is also now a little bit more open than it used to be, because we had to have paid expensive software to even try out the skill. So that kind of thing is now, those barriers are slowly dissolving and getting out of the way, which is a good thing, which is a good trend. But the industry itself in Sri Lanka is really small, because like Randy said, the advertising industry is what's bigger. The entertainment industry is much smaller. So when you think of animation and art and design and I think even video editing and graphic design and the whole aspect of design, creative design, is the opportunities can be divided into two industries. It's either entertainment or advertising. And when you think of advertising, it's commercials and anything to do for a brand or a business. And when you think about entertainment, there comes the movies, the games, the cartoons, and all the fun stuff that we like. But sadly, the music videos and stuff like that. So those are the stuff that basically games are included in the entertainment industry. But those are usually not very commercialized inside Sri Lanka. So if you take an artist, a singer, they wouldn't have a lot of big budgets to spend on their music videos.
Because the market has a lot to.
Being that the market is very small, like they can't sell a lot. Our population is also very small, and our spending capacity is low, and the population that can spend is even lower than the entire population. And the entire population doesn't even have access to all these entertainment tools. So we are very limited in that sense. And therefore, the commercial aspect is the one that naturally pays. It is a fact around the world, even globally. Commercials pay more than entertainment work. But entertainment work also have a platform and a good spending or a good budget when it comes to global artists. But when you think of local artists like singers, performing artists, it's a very limited budget that they have, and then a limited audience, and like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million views is considered a lot inside Sri Lanka. And even so, Sri Lankan views are not highly monetized on YouTube, as opposed to a global artist releasing with easily a few million views within the day itself. So, for example, even Randy's own fan-made video for Eminem made past 1 million views within 24 hours. So that's the kind of reception the foreign entertainment industry has. So we have those two industries that we need to balance things out inside Sri Lanka and even globally, but inside Sri Lanka, the entertainment industry is even smaller. So we kind of tend to naturally go towards the advertising industry. And then we, like we said, since there is no definition for the roles and wages and skills and the specific skills of art or design or animation, then again, there is no encouragement in getting into those fields, especially for illustrators and artists. And I appreciate that you guys are doing this in 3 segments, and you did video graphic design separately and video editing separately, because it has to be recognized in those separate aspects. There's a whole myriad of skills that come under this range of skills, and it's usually referred to as the creative design industry. So creative designers include the 3D animators, video editors, graphic designers, illustrators, and modeling, 3D modeling, sculpting, everything. So creative design. So the industry again is really, really small, but our advice is for this industry or anyone looking to follow this path is, if you really have a passion, if you're really good at it, right? Don't limit yourself to Sri Lanka or the Sri Lankan market.
Yeah.
Why don't you?
Yeah, well, for me, I had a very unorthodox journey where I have worked in all these sectors, and then I had a very basic knowledge of animation. And then I had to like really self-teach myself through online courses and YouTube channels and stuff like that. Also observing storytelling techniques and observing how a lot of animation things are done. Like, so it's an ongoing I teach myself, but I would really advise, if some people are like really interested in animation, not limit yourself only to Sri Lanka. Obviously there are a lot of awesome courses like in places like Udemy and various kinds of platforms. You can follow them, but it's nothing beats like really going to animation school and really learning those techniques with a personal lecturer there, and doing practicals with and comparing notes with the fellow students and getting more value from each other. So if I had gone 10 years back, I would wish that I could have gone to an animation school like that abroad and studied that if I had the opportunity. Because that would be the best way to really acquire the skills and the basic knowledge from those proper education platforms. So keep if that is not an option, I think we can use a lot of platforms online and
also working at a place like
so that's getting experience and practice. AOD and AMDT, they also do a good job. I think you have to really first of all know the basics. You have to know the rules to break them. So I think the 12 rules of animation, principles of animation, that book really helps. Educate yourself through online platforms.
And there's a book called The Animator Survival Kit, which is to date the best book that explains classical animation. Again, it's just a part of one type of animation, but it's a really good book. It's called this Animator Survival Kit. We can obviously share this. There's a free PDF of that book online, so you can just Google it and find it.
Right.
But if not, we can share the link after this discussion. So those books, if you have the free time and if you're passionate about this, those books are definitely something worth referring. If not, the most practical way to push yourself to do something is to go and work. If you don't have the time or the funds to go to a school and go through the degree process, then even if you do have, and even if you are going through the degree process, it's always good to work somewhere where you can apply your skills as you learn it. Because that's definitely how you were pushed into this field. And once you are in that, you feel yourself being skills being applied. I think it's a better acquisition of the skills. So let's move to the next segment. But I just want to check if everyone is hearing us clearly and following us clearly. And if you have questions, just jot it down. And when we do the Q&A session, we can discuss all these questions.
Exactly. Yeah.
We can hear. Okay. Right.
Thank you so much.
Right. Okay. So this is a very special segment, a topic that we wanted to discuss. It's the animator or the artist as an individual, the individuality of an artist and an animator, which I think we kind of touched while we were discussing the industry. But Randy, what do you have to say?
As an individual, I think obviously all people are different and unique to themselves. So knowing that, any artist can really try to practice, looking at a certain style, practice it out, and try to mimic it. That doesn't mean that that's not plagiarizing. I'm just trying your hand at that, and I can try different styles. And the more you do it, the more you will really stumble upon your own style. So I think that's how I also went through my journey. There are different kinds of artists with different kinds of executions. So
so what you have to say to an artist that I think this question we get a lot even in our forums, where they say, I can't find my style. I'm struggling with finding my style, or do I need to find my style? Should I have a style, or can I just follow someone that I think is really great and I like his or her style? For example, Disney's, there are lots of artists who do exactly.
So there's no harm in you having a style like someone else, as long as you get the principles right and the animation is there's a proper finish to it. Then it's a proper product. So there's no harm in that. But there are certain people who has a unique style. So I think so that's a plus point in a certain way.
Some of the artists that you follow, and if you just say some of the artists that you follow.
Obviously I really admire Alberto Maglo, who really brought the style of Spider-Verse. That's one artist I really like. And Murakami is Takashi Murakami. If you Google his name, he as an individual also, he has such artistry and a certain style and a certain vibe of himself. And he has done album covers for Kanye West and done songs for
Billie
Eilish. And he has his own unique emblem, a logo, which is a flower. And he puts it into all his artworks. So that's something special. He really feels it in himself, and there's a very deeper meaning into all of the stuff that he creates. So that's another artist I like. And Miyakaze, of course, who has Ghibli Studios, who had done beautiful work, frame by frame movies such as Ponyo and the Spirited Away. So Ghibli Studios, that's Miyakaze. And even Robert Valley, who did a lot of work in Love, Death and Robots. He has a very unique style as well. So I think trying out all these styles, even drawing, illustrating, and even animating, you will find your own way. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's also, if they do look at those artists that you mentioned, you would understand that none of those look like Randy's art.
Yeah.
It's not about following and being like another person and following the same exact style. There are different aspects about those people that you
exactly.
are inspired by. It's an inspiration process.
Yes.
Like Randy said,
I'm very interested in the thought process of especially I look at why did they do this kind of videos, like the behind the scenes, and I'm really interested about the thought process. Then if you can also apply it to yourself, you can even tackle any kind of thing that's thrown at you. Okay, this is how I'm going to approach this. So that mindset is really important. and it's you don't have to force it upon yourself. You can just get inspired and follow these certain pages on Instagram, and when you have free time, just try all of these things out if you are really creative.
When you said perspective, like Kim Jong-il.
Kim Jong-il, I missed him.
Yeah.
So he has a very interesting life story as well. So
I think it's available on YouTube, right? The story. He passed away sadly very recently. But he's an artist who talks. He's a Japanese artist, or Korean, I think. He talks about how his thinking process as he illustrates. So he's not an animator, but still the thinking of his is very interesting. And when you follow a person like that and understand his thinking process, you kind of get, and like there's a light bulb that goes off, and you think, oh, I maybe you were actually doing that, but when he puts it into words and he says that, it suddenly makes sense, and you kind of connect the dots. So when you're finding yourself as an individual, is it important to find yourself as an individual in this industry?
When you start out, you don't have to really think about that. I mean, first, you are coming into animation, so you have to learn about animation and the basics. So in that journey, you will naturally find yourself. You don't have to worry about that. I would say it will come in time. The right time will come. So just try out everything and know the basics, and practice and practicals and apply yourself. That's what I would say. And also look at opportunities. Also try to place yourself in places where you can,
we'll discuss that in our next topic. I think we are getting there. Right. It's flowing right into that. So a lot of questions that we get also is on, okay, I am an artist. I think I'm good at art, and I have a certain style also. Maybe I have followed this pattern of mine, an organic style that I've been following, and I feel that is a good style, and people appreciate it. My friends say it's nice. My parents don't like it, so that means that should be good, that kind of thing. So then the next problem is, okay, now as an artist, how can I value myself? How do I promote myself? Do I do this as a career or a hobby? Or where do I place this? That's a question that a lot of young guys have asked us.
Yes.
What's your answer?
It's a very tricky thing. I mean, you can always find time to do artistic stuff and really be expressive and really get into art. But then again, if you don't have any medium of supporting yourself, you are gonna get strangled. So that aspect is there. So for us, we try to find the balance. So like getting there. So again, like when Posh said, working at a place where your skill is required, like animating, so you get to animate while you get the monthly income as well. So from working there, you can even self-teach yourself even more, even ask the employer to I have these things, can you get my skills up, and it can also work like that. Like you said, so like for us, we earlier onwards we wanted to do more commercial stuff, but then we found that's not where our passion and storytelling and all of that lies. So I think it was a little hard on us because we took the entertainment route, which doesn't pay you much, but we did a couple of music videos and we gave it all we got, and I think a lot of attention came from abroad.
I think you said this before. You said this when you started, because sometimes you have to do it and show for the industry to realize that has value. That's a product that has value.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. Sometimes you don't get the time to do the best product that you have to showcase it. So you should find that time where you can really do your best, the thing that you can really do, and take the time and make the product and put it out there.
I think that's what you did with Godzilla. And that's how everything kind of See, Randy had always been doing, finding his free space to do what he calls his passion projects, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of do that, though you're not being paid for it, or no one currently, you don't see a potential client or anything of the sort, but you feel it in yourself that this is something I need to put out as a product, and then you did like you did Believe and Godzilla and all that. So it's something you're passionate about. You see through to the end. You perfect the product and you put it out to the universe and let it be. You can talk about it. You promote it where you like. You share it with friends. You upload it on YouTube, and there are lots of platforms on Instagram. Instagram is a really good platform for any artist. YouTube is for any animator or video editor. So you upload it and share it, and hope that one day it will connect with the right people, which is what you did, right?
Yeah.
So it might sometimes take time.
Yeah, another note, like follow the current trends as well. Like I always take part in this Inktober and even these new trends and challenges that people put out.
Yes.
So take part in them because they're global and do something different. And
Yes, there's actually a new trend in challenges that do it in your own style challenge. So lots of artists globally participate in this, and I've seen a lot of artists connecting through this globally. And even Meraki, we have a Spanish artist that works with us, and that's how we found her as well, because they participate in this do it in your style challenge. And it kind of crosses the borders of the geographical borders and reaches out to new audiences. So these challenges are really interesting.
Yes.
That's how you can really connect.
Yeah, and I wish that there are a lot of events like Comic-Con and places like that where we get together and because there are not much in
Not
Sri
much
Lanka.
here. Yeah,
So that's why, like abroad you see all these kinds of conventions. And I think that's important in the future. I'm assuming that I really want to make that happen. And people, because the young generation, they have a lot of capacity and potential, and not like this is a viable platform. It's a viable occupation to take up.
Yeah.
So it's just sad that in Sri Lanka these platforms like events are not taking place. That should be it should be there, right?
Yeah. So that Randy and I personally with a few other senior artists and a group of individuals, we are kind of looking at getting it done, like making it happen, because it needs to happen. It is essential that there is. It also helps build that industry, because right now the ecosystem of the industry. Right now, there is no back and forth between us.
So I think we did it in a very minor scale. We took up a website and got all the creatives together, and right away they connected the dots together, and immediately a lot of jobs started coming up.
Yes,
so that's the power of everyone coming together into one certain space, connecting those dots.
Yeah, amidst problems, amidst issues, amidst all this things that's going on, restriction.
Yeah.
Being in Sri Lanka and being an artist was and is a hard. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
But now with, like I said, there's free software, there is free courses online, better courses. Even if it's not free, it's not too expensive. And there is the opportunity now that there are a few senior artists who have actually broken through to the international market, and they are readily available and willing to share their knowledge. And I appreciate that the school is doing this for the students, and we've done similar workshops for almost all the universities and definitely all the private ones that are in art and animation. So it's important to make that co-collaboration bigger and bigger and bigger, because that's how we can build this industry, and we are looking at doing that. And if you guys happen to have some time, it's this platform that Randy and I created. It's called slcreatives.lk. it's a virtual version of what we intend to do physically, but it brings a lot of artists together and a lot of creatives, not just artists. So anyone in the creative design industry can submit their portfolios there for free, and then get connected with other international buyers and even international artists, because they might be looking to outsource something that they don't have time to do. But definitely, most definitely, international clients. And even locally, they can connect and do something nice. So they can bring out something of their own. Now, we are currently doing a short movie in a collaboration that happened through that group, through that platform. We did 2 music videos again for foreign.
There's knowledge sharing amongst them.
Yes, and it brings foreign income, which we direly need at this time. So that is a really good aspect of this industry, because it has a huge potential for bringing in foreign investment.
Yes, there's not much overhead.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of overheads, and we have the skill, we have the design skill inside Sri Lanka, and we just need to put it out and market it. And once it's out there, and people start coming. And if you give a good service, which is the next value addition, which we are going to talk about.
Exactly, that's a huge aspect of being creative.
Yeah, so let's talk about being a creative and adding value. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Should we check if there are any questions?
Yeah, we'll do the questions after this.
Okay, so I think adding value and adding value has a lot of components that we really should take seriously. That's what I see sometimes in nowadays, like most of the creatives. I see that lacking, and that's a problem. They don't see it themselves, but that would become a problem in the long run for them. So I think adding value is like certain different things. For me, I'll just share my experience. I worked in all these sectors, advertising and e-commerce and all that. So there are, I remember our CEO putting us into the ground to do customer service. So there's something different, like you really experience. You have to really think about the customer and really what he wants and deliver. And
yeah, that was interesting. That was a very forward-thinking CEO that both of us worked under.
Yes.
He had everyone in the building rostered for customer service, because they would meet the customer and deal with the customer's issues, so that if it's just limited to the customer service agents, the others hardly feel the pressure or the needs of the customer, or how they think.
Yes.
And even to make a website and design the website, you have to know how the customer thinks.
Yes, that was
a really progressive move on our CEO's side, where he pushed us to do that.
Yes. So that's something really important. Working places that you get, you can gather these values that they give. Like in the advertising agency that I worked in, there was this person, he was from Leo Bernard, and he shared his thought process and different platforms, how to
find
the inspiration and get to it. So so it was all about giving what the customer wants. Like when a customer would approach us to do a certain video, we would understand who his target audience is, and what kind of mood and why does he want the product in, and what's his objective. If it's gathering more customers.
Yeah, the customer's customer.
Customers. Yeah. So, and knowing all of that, we would go about the brainstorm.
Yeah, especially when it comes to design and animation and art and visual direction, especially visual direction. If we are making a music video, we are not making the music video for the singer. We are making the video for the singer's fans, right? So that is the customer's custom. So we need to think in terms of the singer's fans, not the singer, right? So what are the fans looking?
That is the end consumer of that product that you're making.
Yeah. So we kind of tend to think that way, and when the customers and the fans are very keen on the video naturally has views, which then in turn benefits the artist the way he wants. So this is exactly how you add that value to a product when you think of the customer's customer. But if your customer is the end customer, like for example, if it's a piece of art, you're selling the art to an art collector, then you want to understand that person's perspective of what he's looking for. And I think there is a little bit of an issue in the current industry, especially with the young kids coming out with degrees and certain qualifications. They tend to think that now that they have these qualifications and now that they have certain knowledge in this industry, that the world is ready to accept them, but that is not true.
That is sadly not true, because you don't, the market will decide whether it's
worth their time. Yeah.
So you can't decide yourself. You should have your worth. You should know your worth. That's different. But you cannot expect the market to know your worth unless you really put in the work.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a very important thing we want to tell, especially young guys who want guys and girls who want to follow this path. Just because you might be a great artist, you might be a great animator, you might be great at anything. This does not apply just only to art and animation, but it applies to any skill in general. When you come out to the market and you present yourself and your work or your services for sale, you have to understand that while you think that there is a value that you place, obviously, let's arrive at a value, say my cost is this much, my equipment and my software and my paint and my time, it's all costing me this much. You would have a number in your head, right? So that understanding you have to have as an artist or an animator. You know that, so that this is my skill, this is my cost, therefore this is my expectation of selling this service or this piece of art. But then the next factor, where the market is the actual decider of your value, that is when you really need to play. This is a game, right? So that is the most interesting game, which most artists are not able to do, because they're artists and they're emotionally connected to their piece or their skills, and they think that it's amazing, and they can't arrive at a price. Either that, or they just sell it at any price that is available or anyone is willing to offer, because they have very little marketing skills, because they'll just sell it maybe for free even, so that happens a lot. So for either way, for both reasons, they tend to fall out of the market, and then they end up finding other jobs and complaining about not being able to be an artist, a career artist. But there are ways, there are formulas, there are methods to overcome these things. I don't think that's something we will discuss today, because there's a whole new range of things to discuss. But the importance here being that you need, while you understand your own value to a certain extent, you need to keep adding value to what you do, not expecting the customer to give you that value, because they are so like it's simple. Even if you go to let's say select a piece of cheese, right? So you would go for the value, that the price and the taste and the certain aspects, the qualities that you're looking at of the piece of cheese, right? And you would go for that regardless of, so it's not just the price that you're thinking about, it's the taste that you're thinking about. So if the cheese is offering a box additionally, an additional value, you might see, oh, okay, I think I like the taste. So there are reasons why you would then go for that cheese, and the marketing is all about that. So you keep adding that value, even if it's a tiny bit, right? It doesn't have to be a huge thing.
So I think from our end, when we make even let's say a music video, we would hand over free posters for them and different social media pieces. I mean, and even different kinds of small clips of teasers. So that's something we go out of the way and do, and that people really appreciate that, and also sharing the thought process that went into it.
Yes.
Well, we have a unique thing. We leave a lot of Easter eggs in most of the things we do. So there are hidden meanings, and
Yeah.
so that the people have to rewind back and see the video again. That's repeat value. And most of the customers do come back to us. Again, it really the working for that, it really comes from a genuine place. I regard any project that I have as a real piece for my portfolio. That's how I regard it as. So like, I really don't think about the deadline, not the deadline, okay, I have to finish this in 1 week. No, I mean, I would take my time and really do something that is that I'm really proud of.
But
So,
of course, you would communicate to the client that you
of course.
want more
Yeah,
time
need to
in
be-
that case.
yeah.
So that's a tricky line where when it comes to deadlines. But this tone deaf video that we did. So what they wanted was a lyric video in 1 week.
Tone deaf of
For
Eminem.
tone deaf of Eminem's tone deaf, and then they just wanted a lyric video in 1 week. And we said, if you don't change the price, give us 20 days. And we will give you something more. And they were like, okay, because we can't jump and ask them to pay us more for something that they don't want or know what it is about.
So we saw it as an opportunity.
We saw it as an opportunity. So that's adding value. And we went ahead and did a music video, not just a lyric video, but a music video with lyrics. And when they saw it, that this is what's good with an international market, they immediately paid more and said this is definitely worth much more. Then they got Beats. Beats wanted to sponsor that. They paid us extra to include Beats. Beats, the headphones on Eminem, and they were really thrilled with the whole product. And it's a music video at the end of the day, instead of just a lyric video. So you have to grab opportunities like that by adding value, but you have to have good communication with the client. You can't, and also I have seen lots of people go like doing these packages, right? So they'll be like, okay, I do the music video and I give you a free poster and a free thumbnail and whatnot. We don't say that, these package things are good to a certain extent, but
there's something wrong with that. Like that comes down to like giving options. Like
no, but then that means you're adding the value and adding a price to the value that you can freely give. So it's better to just say, okay, the music video is what you're paying for.
Yeah, but okay, so they have been very transparent in when they're breaking it down like that. We give the post as a surprise element. So like
so that's what I'm trying to tell, right? That's a lot of that.
So, but there's nothing wrong in them telling that, okay, this is the package.
There's nothing wrong, but that's what some people follow. But then they would be like, okay, I don't want the poster. Will you reduce the price?
Yeah.
So then that becomes a negotiation that isn't, and at the end of the day, then when they don't have your poster and the poster looks different, then you're not capitalizing on the full marketing advantage of that video and things like that. I don't know if we make sense, but I hope it does. It's a lot of thinking that when you come to this stage, you kind of see all those aspects, and adding value shouldn't, I personally think that once you categorize, because we used to price that way. Back in 2018, we had a price list and we would be like, okay, a leaflet is this much, a book cover is this much. So
I still think it's the transparency is more important. I mean, right now, even when people come with us with different kinds of budgets, we have a breakdown of different kinds of packages.
Styles, not packages. So what I'm trying to say is not to be transparent. It's not about hiding anything. But when you segment the values that you can add and you add prices to it, then you are not actually adding value, because you're just adding prices, more things to pay for. Right. But if you are adding the value, then it shouldn't be that's a price tag.
So what I'm saying is nothing's wrong with that, but you can choose to give a free poster. So that's the value add comes. Nothing wrong with what do you call
segmenting and pricing.
Nothing wrong with that.
But it doesn't count as a value.
That's what I'm saying. So that's nothing wrong with it. That should be the case. So people should be segmented down like that and give, but it's up to you to add more value and give something the customer will really like.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we are done. Let's go for any questions.
Okay. Did we miss anything on that?
No questions? Didn't understand anything?
Session.
Yeah, well, before we head on to the Q&A session, I would like to thank Mr. RandyChriz and both of you for that very interesting and very knowledgeable lecture. So now, moving on to the Q&A session, if anyone has any doubts or questions regarding today's lecture, drop in your questions in the chat box and we will clarify them for you. And the question we have gotten now is, give me a sec. Yeah. So the first question is, what are the online animation tools we can use?
Online animation tools. Is it?
Animation.
Yeah.
Software.
Yeah, so you don't specifically have online animation tools, but it is available online, but then you download it. After that, it's no longer used online. But then the most popular tool for animation right now that is free is called Blender.
Yeah, that's not a tool, it's a software. Yeah. Blender is like a 3D animation software.
Also,
That's free online. It's open source and anyone can use it without paying.
yeah, it's supposed to be. So we haven't personally tried Blender because we are now used to the tools that we use. But if you're talking about the software, this is a free open source software. So I think it's the best one to start exploring. And lots of good reviews about this software. And there's another one called Krita. That's Krita, Krita. That's also used a lot. But Blender is, I think it's very much more flexible because it has the capacity. So Krita is 2D animation, 2D illustration. Blender is 3D, but it also has a 2D grease pencil. It has an element.
It has 2D aspects and it keeps on getting upgraded, like updated and developed. And I think it's a very potential tool that anyone can.
Yeah, I think that would be the best one to go for going forward because it's pretty popular. Blender and Krita. If not, what we use is obviously Photoshop, the Creative Cloud, the whole range, but we specifically use Photoshop and After Effects. But that is a whole, see, After Effects and what Randy does is a bit unorthodox. So I feel Blender and Krita would be a better start. Also, if you are an illustrator and not considering animation specifically, if you want to start illustrating, then that the best, I think the best easiest startup kit would be an iPad with the pencil and Procreate the software for the iPad because it has lots of tutorials and it's very easy. The learning curve is very gradual. It's very quick actually. And lots of artists we've seen coming into the industry through Procreate. That's for art specifically.
Also, you can do little animations in Procreate as well.
You can do a few animations on Procreate as well. So that's a good start. But if you're talking about the tools that are not software, I assume online tools meant software. But then there's also the hardware.
There are online different tools as well. I have used like it to make fonts and make it 3D and have it rotating. Those are tools. It's not a software. So like there are certain tools, but they are not like really professional standards. So I think Blender, Krita is one of the best free softwares.
Yeah, in terms of hardware only what you said. So hardware, Randy uses a Wacom tab, pen tab. So there are people go with this Cintiq, which is a monitor that you can draw on. It's Wacom or Wacom or whatever you call it. It's WACOM. So they have different variations of tablets that you can draw on that translates the image onto the computer. So what Randy uses is a Wacom Intuos Pro Medium, which I think is about 72,000 rupees now. I think I'm not sure. But it's a really good tool. But anything less than Xpen There are few
different brands.
There are few Chinese brands that are coming up now that are really good as well and much more cost effective. So if you're going to start with illustration or animation, those tools are really effective. If you're using a PC, you need the PC, obviously, the computer, the machine, and or the laptop or the computer, and this additional Wacom or Intuos or Xpen or Huion tab. It's called a pen tab. It's basically a tablet with a pen, but there's no screen on most of the tablets. It's like a drawing pad. But there's also this tool that's called Cintiq, which is basically a huge monitor that you can draw on, like an iPad, or it's a screen that you can draw on. So there are these different tools that you can use. That's in terms of hardware. For animation specifically, it's better to have a machine than a laptop. And if it's a laptop, you need to have a bit of a high-end graphics card. So it has to be something like a gaming laptop. MSI is a really good brand if you're going for laptops. I think that's the best brand out there for laptops. Asus and those kind of things also work. But MSI's capacity for graphics is higher. So if you're going for animation, you might want a high-end laptop. But I think at that price, it's more the price of a high-end laptop versus a machine. I think the machine is much more better because you can increase the capacity. You can change your hardware as it goes. You can change the monitor, change the hard drives, the capacity, and the graphics card, etc. So if you are serious about animation, go straight to a machine and download the softwares that's free already. And get started. Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering that question. And another question we got is, where could you find the proper inspiration you need to make like a really good animation piece?
Repeat that question, I mean.
Yeah. So where can you find the greatest inspiration to make or to create a good animation piece?
3D animation, inspiration for 3D animation, is it?
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
3D animation. That's a tough one. Inspiration for 3D animation. See, that's the thing. Now, if you're going to look at it as 3D animation alone, you're going to, I don't think you'll find inspiration, because as an individual, you can't effectively finish a 3D animation project as a person, because 3D involves a lot of skill sets, and you have to perfect all of those skill sets to have an output that you can take to market, right? I mean, you can do it for fun, of course, but it won't be like a product that you can take to market, because it's hard to do alone. And your machines have to be really high end to render those things. And, it's just too much of a cost to try that out. It's better to go and work somewhere and then find your inspiration that way, where you work in a 3D studio. And you obviously then learn the skill while finding inspiration. But more importantly, I think the inspiration should come from the visual directing, the story aspect of it, right? Which is why Alberto, who did Spider-Verse, have you watched the Spider-Verse movie?
Yeah, definitely, obviously.
Yeah, I hope so. If not, please watch it, because see that Sony hired Alberto, just this one single artist, to do the entire animatics of that movie, the art direction of that movie, and he was the only one. So he did it alone. And then Sony fired him and got a whole other team to continue his vision. But the aspect of this unique technique came from a single artist, right? And the rest of the team actually executed this artist's vision. Visual direction is that, that's what we would encourage you to find inspiration in. Randy mentioned Takashi Murakami. If you want to write it down, I'll say it really slowly. It's Takashi, Takashi, and Murakami, Murakami. He goes as Takashi Pom, I think, on Instagram, but you can find him, like just Google him, you find his Instagram, follow that. He does, so he does very interesting 3D, 2D animation. It's again a mix, but he did some movies with, what do you call this, Japanese monsters, right? Like Godzilla?
Transformers.
Kaiju
Kaiju or
something like that, right? These monsters that you. So he did a few movies only for Japan. He's a Japanese artist, but those didn't quite work out for some reason. So, but his 2D and his branding and his execution of his branding is really, really good. And he has worked with a lot of good brands, Louis Vuitton, Nike, and a lot of brands. So inspiration there again is different. See, so he is a 3D artist, he is a 3D animator, but his most recognized skill is the branding. You see, it's different. It's not, you can't really pinpoint and say, okay, this guy's 3D animation is great. Let me see how that is. But of course, if you go on Instagram and search, you follow the hashtag for 3D animation, you'll find a lot of inspiration.
What I was going to say, because that's where you find the inspiration. Not, I mean, Takashi Murakami. They but that of course is in different sectors. But even in Instagram, if you follow the hashtag 3D animation, there's so much of artists and animators out there. When you follow them, the algorithm keeps on giving
Pushing
you
the
same stuff like that. We have even contacted a lot of people for different projects. Like that. So I think Instagram is a good place to.
It's a very good place to follow and maintain your profile. It's really good to maintain your own profile and really good to connect with everyone else in the areas that you're interested in. And they quickly, most often they do connect, and you can talk to those people and drop a question politely. Don't bug them or whatever, but just ask the questions that you need, and they would most likely respond. Instagram is a really good space where people do respond and maintain it personally. Yeah, but otherwise what I was trying to get at is, don't look at, okay, I need 3D animation inspiration. Don't look at it that way. Look at the end product. What do I want to do with the 3D animation? Do I want to make a movie? Do I want to make a cartoon? Do I just want to make like a 3D model? Is that what I want to do? Then look at the end product and reverse engineer. That's Randy's famous term. Like, look at what you want to achieve and then find out the steps that will get you there, and reverse engineer. So from being the best 3D animator in the world to being yourself right now, what's the gap you need to fill? That kind of thing. Okay.
Oh, I totally agree with that too. And the next question we got is, do you use the same method to draw both animations and webtoons through webtoon pictures?
Yeah, I mean, drawing, it's the same. You can use any tool. The drawing is made on any of those. So you can use Procreate, you can use Photoshop, you can use Illustrator, you can use Krita, you can use Blender, you can use even Paint. The age-old app on your computers. You can use anything, or draw it on a paper. We have one animation we did that was made out of paper drawings. So you can draw anywhere. The tool that you use to draw does not matter. But in webtoons, you will have to input the drawing into the webtoon platform, right? So then the way you send, or what do you call?
I think the execution depends on, if you want to do an animation, I think you have to choose a software like Photoshop, which has you can draw in different layers, so that in that way you can take it up and animate it. If you want it into like a comic book or something, again Photoshop is fine. Again, webtoons is
even Procreate, you can separate the layers.
Yeah.
So if you're animating, you have to think in animation when you're drawing.
Think of the end product.
Yeah, and when it's webtoons, you think of that comic aspect when you're drawing. So it has to have emotions, and it has to have like dynamic movements when you're doing a comic and stuff, or like dialogue, a lot of dialogue in webtoons, you know. So when it's animation, it's less dialogue, more action, that kind of thing. You know, you have to think of the end result, and the tool that you use to draw depends. Then, like for animation, even if you draw on a paper, you can take the picture of the drawing and then cut it out on Photoshop, and then it's a bit of a process, but you can make it happen, right? So instead of paying attention to the tool, I would pay attention to the end result. And then again, you can follow artists who do that, right, on Instagram or wherever, and talk to them or see if they have shared their process and see what tools they use. So in Sri Lanka, I think the most the artist who does a lot of webtoons is Achintya Amaratunga. So you can follow her. So she does a lot of webtoons, and she talks about it a lot as well. And if you're interested in comics and comic books, then there's Sachi Edirivira as a Sri Lankan, who is more than willing to share his experience. You can reach out to him on Instagram again, Sachi Edirivira. Yeah, his handle is ROUTE365 on Instagram. But you just Google Sachi Edirivira, find him anywhere. And if you're thinking about ZBrush and modeling and coming up with these 3D nice models, then there's Sculpts, then there's Prabhat Vijayanta. Varuna is different. And if you're thinking about realistic figurine modeling of figures, then there's Varuna Valigama. So there are these people, you know, in Sri Lanka who are willing to share their knowledge, and they're willing to talk, and you can visit them. Varuna, you can visit his studio. So yeah, it's a lot of people that you can reach out to. Any more questions? No more questions. Sorry, send
got disconnected. Give me the one I was lost.
Okay.
Give me
Okay, 1 minute. He didn't stop.
Thanks much.
Okay, so if there are any more questions, I think you can reach out to us, and with those questions, we can you can email us any questions. So the email is contact@MerakiUnited.com. That's CONTACT contact at MERAKIUNITED.com. So you can email us any questions that you have specifically, and we will answer those questions. So I think we can wrap it up now. If Senator is unable to connect again.
Yeah. I'll be glad to answer current questions. You have to give it from
I
the
can start.
Hold on, just try. Give it. I'm going to wait a bit.
Okay, extremely sorry for that. Technical problems happening. And thank you, both of you, for your patience and your collaboration. So there's one more question. Is digital art, animation, and graphic designing the future of art?
We can't hear you.
Slightly lower.
What about now?
No, still can't hear. I mean, can hear, but not loud enough.
Is it okay now?
No, but tell us the question.
Yeah, so they're asking if digital art, graphic designing, and animations is the future of art.
Digital art, graphic design, and animation.
Are those the future of art?
No, future of art. Can you repeat?
And the future of art.
One more time?
Yeah, so are
Yeah.
digital arts, graphic designing, video editing the
Right.
future of art?
Like, are those three the future? Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's
All those things combined, those aspects definitely are.
so. Those things are very general things in the industry because graphic design will always remain essential for the industry because it's a big part of the marketing and commercials, and graphic design is basically everywhere. So there's no way that's going to go out of fashion. Then illustration or digital art is definitely the way forward because of the metaverse and the virtual reality that's coming
But
up.
we cannot say that those are the only thing that will be the future of art. There's new techniques and new kinds
Yeah,
of
for sure.
support. We have to be ahead of the curve.
But these are the basics of
those-
everything.
Those
Yeah.
things he mentioned are definitely the future of art for now. What in the future? I mean, like, right?
Yeah, the
You
near
can't say
future.
those are not future.
We can't say those are not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what. But we
Yeah.
can't for sure say if those are definitely either, right?
Yeah.
But those are the very basic elements of whatever that will come in the future.
All right, well, that's those are all the questions we got for today.
Okay.
And
so-
once again, I'd like to thank both of you for this very interesting and very, personally, I got a lot of knowledge and this was very interesting for me. I really loved it. So I'm pretty sure all the participants did too. So now I would like to remind everybody here about the upcoming project Beyond the Horizon of the Royal College Art Circle. Beyond the Horizon is the largest art competition done by any school in Sri Lanka. It even has an international category this time. So make sure to submit your creations. And there are lectures that are being conducted under the fields of puzzles. Sorry, there are lectures being conducted, and there are puzzles, podcasts, simple games, speed art videos, graphic designing videos, and also like a did you know poster campaign, and many more is coming with this exciting and huge project. So now we have come to the end of today's lecture, the third and final lecture of Pixel Art 2022. Once again, I would like to thank our lecturers and the participants who joined today. So before we end up today's program, I would like to invite all of you to pay our gratitude towards our motherland by singing the national anthem.
Mama
Well, despite the technical problems and connection problems we had today, we hope all of you enjoyed. We hope all of you get a lot of knowledge throughout this lecture series. And once again, thank you, Mr. Randy Chriz, and both of you for that very interesting lecture. Well, now this marks the end of the project Pixel Art 2022. We have successfully concluded this project. So, hope you have a good evening. I'm San Salheva. Good night.